Hi there, it's me, Jordan Van Haslo. Welcome to Jordan Van Haslo and Friends live on Hot 702.5 FM Las Vegas. Let's get on with the show. Today I have a very good friend who I'm so happy. I've been wanting to chat with her in this forum for a really long time. The fantastic singer, songwriter, producer, what else? Feminist. I don't know.
Vibe coordinator.
Katie Jane Earl. Thank you so much for joining me, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me and talking to me. I adore you and I miss you always.
Yay, that makes me so happy.
It's great to chat with you.
Indeed. And I think it'll be really fun. I'm really looking forward to this because you and I haven't really had, most of the time when we hang out is usually in kind of like a group setting. So I'm really kind of glad. I'm really happy to.
Always in a backyard party or a concert.
Exactly. Exactly. So most of you in Radioland, Katie's a fantastic singer-songwriter. She's also a member of, most of you in Radioland might know her as the only female member of the group The Mowglis, whose latest single, More Love, just dropped, a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
I think it was September 30th, and it actually is our last single for the foreseeable future.
So, okay, couple of things. That was in September when it came out because time is passing. I feel like I'm in like a time vortex. I can't believe it was that long ago. Like it's almost time passes so.
Oh my God, time is soup. I can't even remember. Like when I think about what was happening in my life in January, it truly feels like a lifetime ago.
Right. So
and even thinking about the beginning of like quarantine, like back in March when people were like baking bread and playing board games, like a lifetime ago.
Oh my God, right? Like when it was the novelty, like when the novelty was still there, like being stuck in the house.
Everything is time doesn't make any sense. So yeah, September 30th. Which
I guess that's 3 weeks
like a lifetime ago somehow.
Yeah, so that's like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, and I remember you all popped up in my Instagram feed when you announced the new song, and you said that this is going to be the last one for a little while. And you guys have been together for 10 years. And I remember watching what I think is so fascinating just about your group and your following is how lovely and nice your core fans are, because I remember the reading after I saw the announcement that you guys weren't going to be making any more music for the foreseeable future. I remember reading through a lot of the comments, and I just couldn't believe how positive and vibey everyone was. They were like, "Oh, thank you, you're wonderful." Like everyone was so like nice. Which is
the Mowglis were truly blessed with like the greatest fan base. They're so cute, so sweet, so genuine. It's the best.
Yeah.
And it's honestly the one thing I'll miss more than anything.
Yeah. How you guys were together how did you guys come together?
Well, in I guess it was 2009. We were kind of all in the music scene, in this creative scene in LA. And a lot of us grew up in the Valley, the San Fernando Valley, for the listeners abroad. And we all were just kind of hanging out in garages. And a few of my friends a few of the original Mowglis had written some songs, and they called me to come over and sing on some of them. And we would just kind of hang out and write and record music in a garage, truly a garage band. And it was, really cool. We had this collective going at the time, which was a lot of different bands and artists. And we'd come together and throw these little events in LA, and they'd always be really, really cool nights, packed out, and weird little theaters on Santa Monica Boulevard. And all these different bands would play, and the last band would be the Mowglis, and it would be made up of members from all these other bands that played throughout the night. So it was this really weird moment moment in time in about 2012, 13.
Uh-huh.
But we started all hanging out in 2000 and, God, again, time is soup. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. But I think the collective was happening in like 2012, 2013. And that was like really the beginning and the birth of the Mowgli's.
So it's in terms of just building your fan base, because again, you guys have I've been to your shows and you guys have like a pretty hardcore, dedicated group of followers. Did that just happen organically, or how did that happen to when you kind of made the switch to like, okay, we're like a touring band and like this is like we got something here?
Well, I think it just happens organically because we were playing shows every night, and then we would just be out there talking to people like, hey, please follow us on Twitter and follow us on Facebook. And Instagram wasn't even a thing, I don't think, then. Maybe it was just brand new. But we were out there, you know, talking to people. And the first year or two of shows, mind you, was literally just made up of all of our friends. We were just like throwing parties. And then it kind of caught on, you know, then people started coming to these events, and then people, you know, basically heard our music on the internet. And even when we got signed and started touring in 2013, we still were opening up for bigger bands and getting out there and meeting these people and forming these connections.
Right.
And we met, you know, so many great people, and we'd be in some city for the first time, and we're in our 20s and we're traveling, and we're like, yes, you know, this is awesome. Let's go to a bar with all of our fans after the show. You know, it was fun. We partied, and, you know, when you party with people, you make good friends.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so exciting. What I love.
I mean, fun and problematic.
10 years is a long time though. Like there was I remember because I think you guys first came on my radar maybe like 5 years ago, maybe going on actually 6 years ago. I can't believe I've been in Los Angeles for like 6 years, but maybe 6 years ago. And I remember going to one of your first shows, and I remember thinking, oh my goodness, like just your sound was so unique because it's like it's very poppy and very fun, but there's also this kind of almost like etherealness to it, if that makes sense.
Cool.
Like it makes me feel like almost like a safe high. You know what I mean? Like you're dancing on the beach, but you're really stoned, but like all is gonna be okay.
Safe high is great. I really like that. I really do.
Did you when you like came into this collective, like have you always been a musician, or was that kind of like a switch for you, or
it was, so I was 22 or something. And I was up until that point, I had done some like theater, you know, like high school theater and community theater. And I had done some stand-up. And I had always sang, like I did musical theater, and, you know, I did karaoke and whatever. I took voice lessons when I was a kid. I was in choir. I really liked performing, and I always sang. I don't know, you know, but not professionally. I was a child actor more than a singer. I just was always kind of, I lived in LA, you know, I was a kid in the world of entertainment.
Right.
But I never really picked up an instrument. You know, I wasn't so much a musician as I was a performer and an entertainer at some capacity. I'd done stand-up. I was doing some stand-up around that time and working in reality TV.
Stand-up frightens me more than anything in the entire world. And my hat always goes off to people who do stand-up because, you know, as a singer, even if you're like, I don't know, you kind of have the song as a crutch, right? Specifically if you're like singing a cover. It's like, okay, if this isn't all that great, at least I know they know the tune and they'll hop along. But the idea of stand-up to me is like literally just like walking into a room butt naked and saying laugh.
It is, I think I was more scared when I did it than I would be now.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I'm very comfortable on the stage, and I actually wish that, you know, COVID wasn't a thing so I could do stand up.
Yeah.
And I have a good friend who does stand up. It is scary. It's totally different, but I think I've just become completely addicted to the high of the stage, and I don't care if it's good or bad. I just want to get up there. You know what I mean?
100%. It's so weird, like thinking about
Put it
like,
in my veins.
but it's so weird thinking about that. Like, 'cause I was having a conversation yesterday. I'm working right now on this week in Vegas on this variety show that's being filmed. And just listening to the band and the live music, like granted, there's no live audience and it's all being done in a studio, but it just is like, oh my God, I can't believe it's gonna be so long before like live entertainment is like really, really, really a thing, and where you can have a bunch of people in a room, shoulder to shoulder, on the same like plane, just in a zone together. Like that really hurts my heart a little bit.
Well, you know, the Mowgli's, I always thought was very much, for me, you know, I can only talk for myself, but for me, a big part of the Mowgli's was the live experience.
Mm-hmm.
From day one, it was always about, you know, the live show for me. For some people, it was about writing. For some people, it was about the studio. But for me, it was like really all about the live show. And I hope I'm wrong, but, you know, for at least the foreseeable future, I feel like live shows are a thing of the past. And it's so sad to think about, because I can't wait to get back on stage again. And I know that people are getting on stage in safe outdoor COVID-friendly situations. Like, it's happening, but just the way things were, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everything.
No, I think
exactly
you're 100% right, because again, there's something about, particularly like in a smaller venue where like everyone's like chat. Like again, it's just there's an energy that's in a room when it's packed, and everyone again is like on the same plane. And it's been so strange because, you know, I was stuck in Vegas during shutdown, and I was here for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. And then they said, you know, we're opening Vegas now. And I'm like, well, I'm leaving now. And so I went back to California, and I just got back to Vegas this week. And it sort of hurts my soul a little bit. You know, I was walking down the Strip, and there's like not a lot of, you know, it's not packed. It's not crowded. It's like 8 o'clock at night. There's like one car driving down the street, and they've started, you know, reopening some of the lounges, but, you know, you have to social distance. And I know even the Tuscany, where I used to do my show, their lounge, they put the like plexiglass around the stage. So it's really kind of bizarre. It's kind of like, let's look at the musicians in their natural habitat. You know, you want to like go up and like start tapping on the glass. So it's happening, but it really isn't the same as it was. And I really don't think it's going to be that way. I think it's going to be like this for a really, really long time. I'm sorry, go for it.
It's so weird. It just happened so fast. So it's so strange to just be like, oh yeah, like the way things were last Halloween. Yeah, that's the old world.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Completely.
Like it happened so fast, and it's still. I mean, we're still like all in the trauma of 2020.
Totally.
You know, like it'll be years before we know the damage
100%
that this has done to us.
100%. Well, how do you feel? I know you guys have done, like, I haven't done anything like any like streaming concerts or anything like that. I know you guys did a couple, maybe more than a couple. I remember you guys, I think one was like a benefit, and then I know you guys have done a couple. And I remember like at the very beginning of lockdown, I remember I felt like my Facebook feed was full of nothing but my friends singing at me from their living rooms. How did you enjoy or not enjoy doing like streaming performances?
I mean, we streamed our asses off, and it was definitely one of those things where like, everything happened so fast. And so all of a sudden it was like, and you know, we had just gotten off of tour. We toured the UK for the first time after 10 years of like being a band, and after 7 years of touring the US and Canada, and a little bit of South America. We finally got to go to the UK, which is like where my family's from. And we had played radio shows and we did a good tour there. And so like when COVID hit, we were like in the middle of like, okay, well, first it was like, oh, there's a lockdown. And we were like, okay, well, hopefully it'll be over by the time of our summer tour. And then it was, you know, and we're like, okay, well, we'll do some streaming things because we're still active and we were doing so much and we were streaming all the time. And then it was like, hey, the summer tour is canceled. And then it was like, we're going to push till March. And then I started thinking, well, if we push till March, isn't every single band that had a tour book going to push till fall?
Right.
Isn't everybody pushing till fall? Like, how is that sustainable if every single musician in the world that had a fucking summer tour is going to push till fall now? Like, you know, and a spring tour. Everybody, you know, and I started thinking about how, and then, I don't know, it just kind of became more and more realistic that like live shows were not a thing. So it was like, we were like, okay, we need to adapt and we were like, let's just figure out the new world. Like live shows aren't going to happen. I think we thought maybe it's like, I'm a little paranoid maybe. And so it was like pretty early on in the game that I was like, you guys, live shows are not happening for a while. And everybody was like, no, we'll be doing another tour in 6 months. And I was like, it's not happening. We have to figure this out. So we were maybe we were manically streaming. We were streaming so much to the point of one day me and Josh just, because I live with Josh, my husband, who's also a Mowgli, as you know. But one day it just got to a point where we were like, we woke up and we got ready, and we walked our dogs and we fed our dogs and we came back and we did like 4 streams. And then I just was like, I'm so burnt out. Like I just like broke down. Yeah. Like I just stopped. I broke. I was like, I'm broke. And I, you know, we told our managers, I was like, I just cannot do any live streams for a while. I'm like, seriously, like that, it was just, and because everybody else started doing live streams, of course, because that's all we had to do. And like you said, it was just like, oh, every time I go on the internet,
someone's singing at me.
I'm being attacked. And I realized I was one of the attackers.
They say if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
We had a really, really good, yeah, exactly. We had a really cool thing. Like we had a Twitch channel going. We started a Twitch channel and we were like, okay, on Tuesday we'll do cover shows and on Wednesday we'll do this. And then it was just like, oh my God, like how many times can we play the same song?
Right. Well, my thought also,
was, you know,
I'm sorry, go for it.
It was a great way to connect. I was going to say it was a great way to connect. It really deepened our connection with a lot of our fans, actually, because we were like texting. We had this group texting going and everybody was coming to our Twitch page. And then we were just like, we have to stop.
Totally. Well, I remember thinking about it. So right before shutdown, the first leg of my show closed and I was planning on reopening in June. Of course, didn't happen. But I remember right when everything, you know, shut down and everyone started streaming, I'm looking at it like, I'm going to be on, you know, Facebook Live at 6. I'm going to be on this. I never jumped into it because then I started thinking, well, is this going to devalue my performance? Because if I'm saying, hey, come see me for $50 in this showroom, but for the next 2 months you can hear me for free on you know what I mean? Like, so the streaming thing, like, is this going to devalue just my set? Is this going to devalue my, you know, so I never.
It's so hard to navigate.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's so hard to navigate. Like, how can, like, all of this stuff that had never happened in our lifetime happened like in a week. It was so crazy. And then for the rest of the year. Yeah,
totally. 100%. 100%. 100%.
And our industry just flipped over. I mean, music and entertainment is totally fucking different now. And I don't know what that means.
Well, and I think that that's the weirdest thing is I don't think that anyone knows what it means, and I also
Exactly.
don't think that it will ever be the same, right? It's sort of like, you know, when everything moved to streaming and digital downloads. It's like the old model was just over, and everything that you thought you knew, everything that you felt you were trained to know, guess what? That doesn't matter anymore. And I kind of feel like we're going through that type of a thing as well, you know, come 2022, 2023, just how you go about your career, whether it's, you know, you're a touring musician or a recording musician, you know, a recording artist. I think that the old rules are completely not going to apply ever again, which is
I couldn't agree more.
scary, but at the same time, a little exciting. There's like a whole new frontier, I guess.
It's true. And I just think for me, I totally agree. And I think for me, like I stay sane by just kind of going, okay, I surrender.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I have no control over most things.
Right.
So here's what I can control, and everything else I just have to surrender to, because like shit is so crazy.
Exactly. So how do Josh and you spend, like when I first started this show, towards the beginning of the show, I would say, so how have you been spending your spring break? So now that we're like deep into it, and it's like, okay, this is no longer a break. This is just the new normal. And you're surrendering to it. So how do you fill your days?
Well, we're both trying to rediscover who we are as artists right now, because we are, you know, we've put the Mowglis down, and I'm really curious about, you know, what do I do without all, you know, doing it with me, and what does Josh do, and what can me and Josh do together? And we're just kind of reassociating ourselves with music and writing, and in that way, this quarantine has been like a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we're kind of hanging with our dogs a lot. We have 2 dogs that are very old,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, we care for them, and it, you know, brings me a lot of fulfillment. And we're working on our craft, and luckily we over the last 10 years, there's a lot of work we've done that we didn't get paid for that we're now getting paid for.
Oh, that's nice.
Through the form of, so, you know, through royalties and through opportunities. We wrote a theme song for a show, and that.
Did I lose you?
Time. No, can you hear me?
Oh, I did. You said you wrote a theme song for a show, and then you dropped out for a second.
Oh, no.
That's okay.
Yeah, we wrote a theme song for a show, and the royalties have allowed us to, you know, continue paying rent and keeping the lights on through this crazy time while we figure out, you know, other ways to make money.
Totally.
And make art.
Totally. Were you guys, I always wanted to ask you this, were you guys a couple before, like at the beginning of the Mowglis, or did that kind of happen as you guys were, as the band and your careers progressed?
No, we were not together. That didn't happen until we started touring together. And it was kind of problematic. People weren't stoked about it, but then we were like, okay, well, I mean, like, what are you going to do? And like, it just kind of happened because that's what happens. And then now we're married.
Yeah. I always wondered because I know some of the best bands have like broken up, or some of the most promising brands have broken up because, you know, members of the band start getting together and all of that jazz. So I've always wondered if you guys were a couple beforehand, or if that just happened as you were.
Yeah, no, we started hooking up on tour, and we really just kind of gravitated towards each other once we started. You know, we always like knew each other.
Yeah.
But, you know, we were always in group settings, and then on tour, we really gravitated towards one another, and found ourselves like going to get coffee together and going to this together and that together. And all of a sudden we're just spending a lot of time together. And before you know it, you're married.
Was it one of those things where at the beginning you guys are kind of like keeping it away from the band, or like Did everyone see like, oh, really? Oh, look, they're going off for coffee again together.
Well, at first, I don't even think Josh and I really understood it, you know? Like, I was dating somebody else, and he was dating somebody else, and I genuinely wasn't like, ooh, I'm going to go get coffee with Josh. I was just like, oh, cool, yeah, let's go. And then we would go, and we'd have a nice time together, you know?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, one day you're like, oh, shit, I, like, want to go to coffee with you. You know, there's, like, a switch. So it even took me by surprise, and I think it took Josh by surprise. And that was something when everybody was like, what the fuck? We're like, yeah, I mean, we didn't plan this.
Yeah. Yeah. But
and we were kind of like, I think it'd be more problematic if we turned it off and we pretended we didn't have feelings for each other, and we were getting pissed when each other would hook up with other people. Or,
right.
You know, it was like, let's just be honest about how we feel and just like see what happens.
And just go with it.
Take it one day at a time. And
what's it like working with your partner or working with your spouse? Like I'm divorced for good reason. And I imagine if I actually worked with my ex-husband, I would have gotten divorced a lot sooner.
That's so funny. Well, one thing is that, I don't know. I just feel like the hardest times I think were on tour because you're never like alone.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you can never like hash those things out. Like you can never you never have like special intimate moments together, and you never have like, you can never be like, oh, we have to talk about that thing. You know, you're married. You have to talk about things. And sometimes on tour, it'd be like, oh my God, like I just want to get back to my like life where we're just alone together and just like a married couple.
Totally.
But we always did find ways to make it work. But that was definitely like probably the worst of it, is when you're just like, oh my God, like literally there's always 4 other people around. At least, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that, you know, I like working with Josh personally. He probably, I don't know. I like working with him.
Well, that's good.
But I also like, we do, yeah, it is good. And we also do have like but we also do need to do things apart too. Like we do have to have like other creative projects. Like I need that for myself. I need to like not have everything I do be attached to, you know, all this, my husband and the Mowglis,
right.
You know, like I want that for myself, and he wants that too. He needs to like, I don't know. We don't know. We're just kind of, we're exploring it all right now. That's the gift of this time period, this weird COVID time.
Totally, right? I think that everybody is kind of like, and like I said, at first it was, I feel like you know how you go through all of the griefs, the stages of grief. Like I feel like I've gotten through all of it. And now I'm like at this acceptance period, and it's kind of like, okay, maybe this is actually not a blessing, but maybe there is some sort of a silver lining out of this, because it definitely, I know like artistically for myself, like I'm trying a lot of new things, and I'm, you know, like working with people who I never would have considered working with, because it's just so outside of the realm of what, you know, I thought of the path that I thought I was on. What kind of things have you found yourself doing creatively, just as Katie Jane, that may be different or new, or something that you never even thought you would have attempted or explored?
Well, the last year or so of the Mowglis, I started like playing really simple guitar parts live. And I've been trying to learn more guitar in quarantine, get better at it. Because I want to be able to perform alone. Just when if I do live streams, or if I do interviews, or if I go do a public speaking event or whatever I do, I want to be able to perform again, and I don't want to be reliant on other people. So I've been trying to learn.
And more importantly, you can keep all the money.
An instrument. Amen. So I've been doing that, and I never really thought I'd like to play guitar, but it's cool. I like it. And I don't know. I mean, I started therapy.
Therapy's good.
That's great.
Therapy's. You and I
Never
chatted
done
about that.
before.
I think I'm
We sure
gonna
did.
start therapy. I've been thinking about that wholeheartedly, and I think that that's a good thing.
One thing that I'll say about it is that it's like way less daunting than my husband and I both started, and both of us, I think, were like, okay, we're ready to face our demons. And then it's actually just like you go and you talk to somebody for an hour a week.
Right.
And even in some moments, like Josh has been like, what the fuck? Like, this seems like a waste of money. I'm just like talking. And so one day he was like, he was just talking with his therapist about some bullshit he didn't care about. And he just went, okay, this is a waste of money if I don't get something out of it. And he went, okay, like, earlier, like, I was driving and some bullshit that didn't matter pissed me off, and I got really fucking mad in the car or something. Like, I don't know what he said, but he basically was like, I'm going to take this moment to bring up, I'm just going to take initiative in therapy, because like, we're not, what the fuck? We're talking about like, and, I think it's like, it's what you want it to be is what I'm realizing. So I work with my therapist on like creative shit. I'm like, what are the things I want to get through creatively,
Right.
I want to break down the walls that I have creatively and stuff. So I try to work with my therapist on that, and I found a therapist who specializes in that and works with artists.
That's good.
But I really think it's what you want it to be, and you might love it.
Yeah.
Or you might be like, this is bullshit. But I like talking about myself for an hour a week, go figure.
if there's not a stage in a club, you'll find a stage somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. The live entertainment went down, so I went to therapy so I could talk. Got to do it somewhere.
Oh my goodness, I love it. So in the time that shutdown has happened, have you guys just literally just been in LA, just kind of cooped up in your place, or have you done any traveling at all? Whether it's like a road trip or.
We went to Joshua Tree, and that was really, really nice. We got like a little house with a few friends in Joshua Tree, and just went and chilled there for a few days, and basically did the same thing. Like, it was just like we got a house somewhere else. We just social distanced in another environment, and it felt really good.
It's nice to change your environment, but that's the thing that's been so weird in this time space for me, because it's like, okay, so I was stuck in Vegas, and so I'm in Vegas, and I'm like, okay, time to get out of Vegas. Then I went to Palm Springs, and I'm in Palm Springs, and it's like, okay, time to get out of Palm Springs. And then I went back to Hollywood, and it's like, oh my goodness, like no matter where I am on the planet, it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
100%. You and I have mutual friends, Creighton and Ryan, who, that was one thing that we were talking about when they decided to move, was kind of like, okay, well, we can just do this in a house that's not in the middle of LA and doesn't cost as much as LA and doesn't have all of the chaos of LA. And it was like, yeah, you're exactly right. If everything is going to be the same everywhere, go be in a better house somewhere. Why do you have to be in New York or LA? But you and I are like, because we got to be in New York or LA. You know what I mean?
Well, can I tell you, but that was like what my takeaway was. It's like, okay, I need to be in New York or LA, because if I'm going to be somewhere,
Isn't that crazy?
I know. Like
no,
that.
But that's that part of me where I'm like, if I was going to leave LA, where would I go? And I'm like, New York or London. And it's like, well, that's not better.
Exactly.
It's the same problems there.
But it's still knowing that there's just like stuff, even if that stuff is closed.
City rat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
I'm a little city rat.
The only thing, and it's so funny because like I would always, like when I once upon a time, I would always rent a house. When I was married, we would always rent a house on Cape Cod every summer. And so, it was nice to get away, be close to the water, get out of the rat race of Manhattan and blah, 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 blah. This was the first time in my entire life where I lived in it. First of all, in a house, because like I grew up, I'm a city kid. Like I grew up in condos and I've always lived in apartments full time. So it's the first time I ever lived in a house, and it was like so cool. Like, oh my God, I have all this space and like grass and all of that. But very shortly therein, I realized, oh my God, there's so many doors and windows. What if the killer comes in? And I'm not in the city. I'm in the middle of the desert. If the killer comes in to try to kill me and I scream, there's nobody around to hear me. I need to get back to the city.
No, you don't know how to survive in the desert. You know how to survive in New York. It's just instinctual.
100%. But it's been a good. I will say that I'm so glad I had the experience more than anything, because it would have sucked to get to be like 70, 75 and say like, oh my God, I think I want to just buy a house and move to Palm Springs. I think I would have probably killed myself. So I'm glad I'm glad I got a chance to try it on. I think that's a lot of what. Maybe I haven't articulated it. I just had like an aha moment. That's what I think this moment in time is. It's the perfect opportunity to try things on, try new things on, try new environments on, because there's no expectations from anybody.
Right.
There's nobody saying,
exactly.
I need you here. I need you to do this. I need you. Everyone's in the same. So this is like the perfect opportunity just to try on things.
Absolutely. I could not agree more.
To try on things. Are there any, I'm trying to think, because restaurants that have outdoor seating are out in LA. Is anybody doing any kind of performing in LA at all?
I have a friend who does stand-up, and she has been a part of, I know like the Comedy Store did like a social distance thing where they had like the balcony, performers were on the balcony and there was plastic, and then they had like speakers on the outside of the plastic, and people were like down in the parking lot, 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
I know that there have been parking lot shows
right.
at like big like stadiums, like at Dodger Stadium and stuff. People have been putting up stages in these massive parking lots, and then they sell parking spots, and you park and you turn on the radio like an old drive-in.
Speaking of which,
turn on the radio.
This is another thing that COVID has taught me. I've prided myself. Do you know I have never owned a car in my entire adult life? In my entire adult life, and I prided myself on I don't drive, but now, thanks to COVID, I can't even go to McDonald's because the only thing open is the drive-through. So I do realize that there are some things that I prided myself on that I now need to adjust in order to move forward in this new world. Did I lose you again?
I feel you.
Oh, you're there. Okay.
No. Hi, I'm here.
In order to move forward in the new world. Oh, well. Crazy, 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 crazies. So what's next? Do you have anything on the agenda, or do you have anything on this is what I'm tackling next and this is what I'm focusing on next, aside from yourself and therapy?
I'm trying to figure that out. My plan is to give myself 2020 to just be patient with myself, to just let myself create a vision. I don't want to just frantically, I don't know. I just kind of want to sit with my feelings. I've been through a lot of transitions. I'm letting myself feel it. I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm trying to give myself this year, because it's the election is coming up. And we released our last song on September 30th. And I was like, okay, well, it's 6 weeks until the election. That's going to be kind of depressing and chaotic. So I'm not going to dive into a new project right now. then it's the holidays. So I'm like, okay, this is a good time for me to let it stew. I'm working on guitar. You know, I think I'm ready to start writing some music. I've been not really in that place this year, but I think I'm starting to get back there. But I'm just kind of moving through it and letting myself take the rest of 2020 because it's been so fucking crazy, such an emotional roller coaster, that I'm just gonna like let myself stew on things and process it and try to channel it into something creative so I can put some art out and get back on stage.
Totally. Are you guys hanging out for the holidays? Are you guys gonna like travel or go anywhere?
Well, it's kind of tough. We've got these old dogs we love, but moving them around is kind of hard. My family's in UK. Josh's family's in Oklahoma. So, you know, flying with dogs is not, flying during COVID is a whole thing. And so we're probably just going to chill.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. I can't believe it's so funny thinking about that. Like Thanksgiving is like, what, 3 weeks away?
No, I just knew it was all going to come so fast. I was like, get through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Totally. So if there's one thing, going back, like just growing up being like this natural entertainer and doing stand-up and doing theater and just being a ham on stage, is there anything that you haven't had an experience doing that you've always said like, oh my goodness, like that's something I want to try, or I wish I had done that, or, you know?
I wish I did more stand-up.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I want to, I don't know. I feel really lucky that I got to travel and play as many shows as I did before all of this happened. That's something that Josh and I have both been like, whoa, how lucky are we that we got to play so many live shows while live shows were still a thing. And like I said, we were touring right through January.
Totally. And at venues that probably that might not be around this time next year.
100%. So I can't really complain in that regard. I feel super, super lucky. And I'm kind of just excited to see what the new world looks like and figure out what my place in it is.
Right. No, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Sorry, my engineer was giving me a signal. Can I tell you what's so funny? So when I first started this show I think I began doing this in February. You know, I was in the studio every single week, and then shutdown occurred, and so everyone, they closed the station down, and so everyone had to figure out, how to broadcast remotely, live. And in doing that, I thought, oh my goodness, I'm never going into the station again. What the hell was I thinking? But, this is the first time that I've been back in the station since the station has been reopened. And it's so nice to not be in the four walls of my place.
Totally.
I forget like what it's like to I think about like going into an office or going into as nice as it is to be at home. I forget what it's like to see other people and to just be
100%.
surrounded in an environment, a different environment. So I was almost more thinking aloud than anything, but it's
No, I totally get it.
Yeah. I don't know. So crazy. Well,
Everything's crazy.
I'm gonna miss the Mowglis.
Me too in some ways, but also it's like I'm ready for a new chapter, and I'm sick of between us and everybody who's listening, to listeners abroad. I'm sick of working with a bunch of straight white men, honestly. There's just some things that I'm like, this is frustrating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I never thought about that. What's that like to be the only girl in the group? Especially touring, just living with a bunch of boys.
I definitely am at a place in my life where I want to work with and empower more women. I mean, I always thought men were just kind of I don't know. I always just find there's certain things about working with them where at some point, like now I'm just like, ugh, like I don't align with certain things. Or even more so, like I want to empower other things, and I don't want to be like, I don't want to have a conversation with it about it. You know, I don't want to be like, hey guys, like, should we play this show about this and this? Or I want to play this show and put our name on this, you know, this organization, or I want to put our name on this cause.
Right.
I just want to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want to have to go through the rigmarole of like making sure everybody's on the same page all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I just want to do what's on my page.
No, totally. And that's the challenge. I guess that's the challenge of like working in any like any group, because there's always like, do we have a consensus?
And I like working in groups. I do like working in groups, but like if I'm going to sacrifice any kind of like creative vision for a group, I'd prefer that to be a group that is women or people of color or queer people. Like, I don't know, you know, why is like 10% of everything I'm making? Like, I'm part of the problem. I am the virus. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sit and talk about empowering women and not empower women.
Like, in other words, you want to kind of like kind of put your, I get it. Like more, yeah, like more than just like the lip service of it all. Like that makes perfect sense. Has that ever?
That's the place that I have gotten to.
Has that ever happened? Have you ever been like called out for that? Like, well, look at you surrounded by all these white guys. Like,
no.
has anyone ever done that?
No, not really. It's just this year, you know, I think people have had a lot of moral and ethical awakenings within themselves, if that makes sense.
Totally.
And I think that I really want to be a part of the positive change. I want to have some kind of positive impact. And if I look around and all I see are straight white men, you know, who I don't, you know, whatever. I don't know. Why am I not giving my time and energy to amplify the voices of somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't be like, oh, I hate this like straight white male system and then just like operate in it.
Right. No, absolutely.
And it's a personal like thing it's a thing I've struggled with and I've been coming to terms with, where I'm like, I would love a female or a person of color or Latin. I want a different, I don't want 10% of everything I make going to a straight white man.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No.
Like, I feel like, honestly, it's like one of those things where I'm like, it's like, I hope they don't listen to this interview, but then I also hope they do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, sorry to say it, but that's just kind of where I'm at in my life. And I'm like, it's been an internal struggle, because it's like giving up a lot of things.
Yeah. Oh,
in
totally.
a lot of ways, like to just be like, okay, well, it just, what do I want this world to look like? Like, it's be the change you wish to see in the world, you know?
Yeah.
I wish all fucking people who thought this way, I wish like all women, I wish all non-straight white men would go like, fuck working with all these white men. Let's go work with them, you know?
I think that's called colonization. Wait, you say straight white women or straight white men?
All non-straight white men.
Oh, okay, got it.
Mm-hmm. That's what I wish they all did. I wish they all went like, no, I don't want 10% of everything I make, or 15%, or whatever the fuck they were making, to be going to, like, no, that opportunity can go to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that.
But
go for it.
I'm just saying that's hoping somebody else wants to represent me.
Right.
Fingers crossed.
Well, better get your streaming going again. Start.
You know what I mean?
Showing off your stuff. Well, listen, Katie,
exactly.
we are basically out of time.
Well, it's a pleasure every time I get to talk to you.
It's always a wonderful pleasure chatting and hanging with you. And I can't wait to see you again in the flesh whenever that is gonna be. Is there any
Me
place?
too.
Is there any place? I mean, I know you're online or anything. As far as our listeners, is there any place they should check you out to particularly the non-straight? The non-straight white men, where they should check you out, whether on social or on.
Well, I'm on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Katie Jane Earl, and that's Jane with a Y. That's Jayne, Katie Jane Earl. Our music's on Spotify and all that shit. And I don't know. I'll figure out what I'm doing next and keep you posted.
Cool beans. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we're going to sign out. Hi there, it's Jordan Van Haslo. Thanks for listening. I hope you had as much fun as we did today. Before you go, be sure to like today's conversation and subscribe so you never miss another. Also, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Showtime with Jordan for breaking news and unaired behind the scenes. And don't miss us live every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific on Hot 702.5 FM Las Vegas. See you next time for another Showtime with Jordan Van Haslo and friends. I don't know if you know this, but everyone's favorite radio show and podcast is now available on Spotify. That's right. Showtime with Jordan Van Haslo and friends, my weekly one-on-one chat with some of the most interesting people I know from the entertainment and the arts communities, can now be streamed on Spotify. That's right. I share real estate with Michelle Obama. Click the link and be sure to subscribe. And don't miss us live every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific on Hot 702.5 FM Las Vegas. Let's get on with the show.